What is up, guys? Welcome back to another Coleman video. Now, in the last video I mentioned that I got 3 new lanterns for my birthday, and we looked at the 285A that Josiah picked up for me. Today we're taking a look at this 220J. This was a gift from my parents for my birthday this year, and before I light it, we gotta discuss what we had to do to actually get it running semi-properly.
When he first brought this over to my house to show it to me, we got it running. I put some thoriums on it, so I was like, it deserves it. And we noticed it just wasn't burning that bright. One thing, and you can even still tell, is like up here on the mantle towards the top, it's kind of like a brownish orange color to it. It hasn't really burned off yet, and for whatever reason on these Peerless ones, they seem to have like a brown kind of tinge to them, but usually after I burn them long enough, and if the lantern's running properly, then it typically burns off, then looks pretty white. This one over here on my left it's got a little bit of brown left, but it's definitely burned off most of it. But yeah, like we got it lit and it was just really yellow light. It wasn't flaring up, so it's getting enough air, but it just seemed like the fuel passage was blocked. From there, I just told him, hey, I'll go run it at my house all night, see if that clears something up. Pumped it up, I don't know, probably like 50 pumps or so, let it sit overnight. Woke up the next day, it was still running, but still ran poorly. From there, I was thinking on taking it apart, but I was like, hey, I don't really want to if I don't need to. So one thing that we did is we ended up just kind of pumping it and pumping it and pumping it up until we got to like 200 pumps. I don't know what these are rated for as far as the fount and its integrity. I don't know how much PSI we were pushing at that point, but it got it to run really well. It started running like it normally should. And Sam eventually just ran it long enough like that. So now instead of having to do 200 pumps, it's around 50 to 60, and then it usually runs pretty well. There's probably still a little bit of junk in that fuel pickup tube, but hopefully burning it long enough will help clear some of that up. One thing that I've done with some of mine that have issues on, I believe it's one of my 200As had some problems. My first mil spec I got has some problems. And what I did was I just ran some denatured alcohol through them, and that cleared them up. My mil spec for some reason has to run on a 50-50 mix of white gas and alcohol to run properly, but I guess that's what I gotta do. But with this guy, I believe this is when Coleman started using the anti-rust coating in their founts. So I don't know how well you can see it, but there's a brown coating in here, and what that is like a paint or some sort, and it's to prevent the fount from rusting. So I believe Coleman used this coating starting in the 70s, but with these earlier models, like the 220s, pretty much anything before the dual fuels, the coating, even if you use unleaded gas, I've heard it can cause it to flake up, and I've also heard that if you run alcohol in it, it'll cause it to flake up, and then you're really just opening a can of worms, and it's going to be a bigger issue than you started with. So I didn't do that. Another thing that we noticed too when he first got it is whatever fuel was in here, maybe it was unleaded gas, I'm not sure, but it smelled super varnished. It was really gross. It just kind of smelled like sour gasoline. I guess I wasn't too surprised when it ran poorly. Thankfully it's clearing up now. I think what happened is with the fuel pickup tube, there's just a thin layer of varnish on there, and that prevented it from getting proper flow. So before we dumped out that nasty gas, we decided to run it. It didn't have any mantles on it. Pumped it up, turned it on, and it seemed to burn fine. It was hissing and wasn't shooting flames down, it just had a nice blue flame, so that's why we put mantles on. And then from there is where we found out, oh, it doesn't burn right. Then we went, got rid of the old fuel, put in brand new white gas, and it still ran poorly. That's when we started just pumping it up, and seemed to clear itself out. So definitely glad we don't need to take it apart, because on these it can be a real pain, and I don't have a proper setup right now to do it safely, so it's really easy to bend the fountain. Once you do that, it's kind of hard to bend it back how it was, but thankfully we don't need to worry about that. So yeah.
So as Josiah mentioned, we had to pressurize this thing probably far past what they're even built to withstand. However, it does still seal, it still holds pressure, nothing leaks after being run overnight twice with 200 pumps and a full fount of gas. which blows my mind because I have no idea how much pressure that actually was putting into the fount, so the fact that nothing cracked, none of the seals broke, is actually pretty impressive. However, with that explanation of what we had to do to get this thing working out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and get it lit and show you how it runs. So as you probably heard, it still makes the good old frog noise when it's first starting up, but as you can hear, it quieted down. So we're going to go ahead and open this up the rest of the way. And I'm also going to go ahead and spin the tip cleaner at the back here. Oh, that's good. There we go. This time it's actually running pretty decent. Jeez, man. Alright. So here it is burning on the table with the rest of the garage lights off. You might be able to tell it's not burning quite as bright as it should be. And if I go just a little bit closer here, you might be able to tell. Let me drop my exposure down here. Yeah, you can definitely tell that these mantles are still quite yellow as far as thorium mantles go. As you saw in last week's video, they're supposed to be nice and white. These are still burning pretty yellow, which is kind of unfortunate, but because of the issues that we explained earlier in the video, it's not really too surprising that it doesn't burn properly. It still makes some nice noises every once in a while too. But as you can see, it's definitely not dim. You can see the majority of the garage with this light. There's Josiah just chilling right here. It is quite a bit darker than it should be burning though, which as I said is unfortunate but understandable considering how bad of shape this thing was in when I first got it. A physical shape though, it's pretty immaculate. There's not many scratches on the paint. There's a little blemish on the hat, but other than that, it's in really good cosmetic shape at least. There's just something wrong with the fuel system inside of it. So there you go, guys. That is going to be it for this look at this Coleman 220J, and I forgot to mention it at the beginning of the video, but this was manufactured in May of 1977. Big shout out to Josiah for helping me film this video, and a big shout out to my parents for buying this for me for my birthday. I'm glad we got it running as well as it is now. I'm probably going to leave it running overnight for a couple more nights at least and see if it gets any better. But anyway, guys, that is officially going to be it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it, and as always, thank you for watching.
See, that just sounds so much better, man. You're actually like sounding intelligent.
See, I'm getting back into the flow, man.
How bad is it, Tom?